You know, Bitcoin, it didn't just appear out of nowhere. It's the final chapter of a story that's been decades in the making. A struggle that was fought in the digital trenches of the early internet by a small group of activists, visionaries, really. They saw the future coming, and they decided to build a defense against it. It's time we uncovered that hidden history.
Welcome to Bitcoin for Money. Just think about this for a second. What if the very network that was designed to connect all of us, to bring us together, was also the perfect tool for watching our every single move? Now, that's not the plot of some dystopian movie. That was the very real future that a small group of thinkers saw coming way back in the early 90s. And they decided they were going to fight back.
So to really get what that fight was all about, we're going to trace their entire journey. We'll start with what I call the Cypherpunk prophecy. Then we'll dive into the first great crypto war, look at the early blueprints for digital cash, and see how Satoshi Nakamoto finally cracked the code. And to wrap it all up, we'll understand Bitcoin's real power through this incredible analogy, the starfish versus the spider.
Okay, so our story really kicks off in the late 80s and early 90s. There was this group that saw the digital writing on the wall plain as day. They predicted that if we weren't careful, the electronic age would become an age of surveillance like nothing the world had ever seen before.
And they called themselves Cypherpunks. But don't just picture a bunch of hackers in a basement. These were brilliant cryptographers, programmers, and activists with a deeply political vision. They believed that strong encryption, the art of secret communication, wasn't just a tool for privacy. To them, it was a tool for liberty itself.
Back in 1993, one of the founders, a guy named Eric Hughes, he just laid it all out in a Cypherpunks manifesto. And the core idea here was absolutely revolutionary. See, privacy isn't about having something to hide. It's about having the freedom to choose who you are, to choose what you share with the world. It's about autonomy.
And this was their crucial, most radical belief. You couldn't trust politicians or laws to protect that right. I mean, why would you? Governments can change their minds, break their promises, but mathematical principles, those are absolute. So instead of lobbying Congress, they put their faith in code. They believed that technology was the only real shield against a future of total digital control.
And, well, it didn't take long for that belief to be put to the ultimate test. This brings us to the first major battle for digital freedom, the crypto wars of the 1990s.
So here's how it all went down. In '93, the US government comes out with something called the Clipper chip. The sales pitch was, hey, here's strong encryption for everyone. But there was a catch, a big one. The government would hold a secret key, basically a backdoor, that would let them listen in on anything. The cypherpunks and privacy advocates just exploded. And then a computer scientist finds a massive flaw in the chip's design. That, plus a whole lot of public outrage, made the government's whole plan just completely fall apart. It was a massive win.
In that moment, it perfectly sums up their famous motto, Cypherpunks write code. They didn't just write angry articles or hold up protest signs. They built the alternative. They released powerful encryption tools out into the wild for free, for everyone, making the government's attempts to control it totally impossible. They believed in building, not just begging.
So after they secured private communications, the cypherpunks turned their sights on an even bigger target, money. I mean, how can you have a truly free society if your wealth can be frozen, seized, or inflated away in a heartbeat? They realized they needed to build digital cash.
And to solve this puzzle, a whole new group of giants stepped onto the scene. These are the people whose shoulders Satoshi would eventually stand on. You had Adam Back, who invented a proof-of-work system called Hashcash, Wei Dai, who dreamed up something called B-Money, a currency where everyone keeps a copy of the ledger. And then both Hal Finney and Nick Szabo created their own incredible prototypes for scarce, unique digital assets.
Now you have to get this. These weren't just random, isolated ideas. Each one was a critical building block. Hashcash gave us the engine, proof of work. Just think of it like a really hard digital puzzle that costs actual energy to solve. It's a super clever way to make something digital both rare and secure. Then B-Money gave us the blueprint for a database that nobody controls. And the other projects, well, they showed how you could turn all that digital work into something that had real value. All the pieces were finally on the board, but no one had put them together, yet.
And that, my friends, brings us to the moment where everything changed. After decades of brilliant experiments and frustrating false starts, a mysterious figure showed up out of the blue with a solution that tied it all together.
So in 2008, the name Satoshi Nakamoto just appears in history. This totally anonymous person, or maybe a group of people, we still don't know, published the Bitcoin white paper. And what's so important is that they didn't claim to have invented it all from scratch. No, they explicitly gave credit where it was due, citing Adam Back's Hashcash and Wei Dai's B-Money right there in the paper.
Satoshi's design was this incredible balancing act, and this quote from the white paper just nails it. The system is transparent, but it's also private, right? The transactions are out there for everyone to see, but the identities behind them are hidden. This was the direct answer to that decades-long quest the cypherpunks were on.
And that was the magic. That was the genius of the breakthrough. Bitcoin brilliantly stitched together a decentralized public ledger, what we now call the blockchain, with a competitive proof-of-work system to keep it all honest and secure. For the first time ever, we had a real, working system for person-to-person electronic cash that didn't need a bank, didn't need a government. The cypherpunks' dream was finally real.
But to truly grasp the power of what they created, we need a better way to think about it. And the absolute perfect analogy for this is the starfish versus the spider.
Now, this idea actually comes from a book called The Starfish and the Spider, and I'm telling you, it perfectly explains why Bitcoin is so tough, so resilient, and so unlike any other organization we have ever seen before.
Okay, let's break it down. Super simple. A spider is centralized, right? It's got a head. You cut off the head, the spider dies. End of story. Think of a normal company with a CEO at the top. But a starfish? Now that's a decentralized network. There is no head. All its important organs are replicated in every single arm. You can literally cut off an arm, and not only does the starfish survive, but that arm can grow into a whole new starfish.
Bitcoin is the starfish. There's no CEO to arrest. There's no central server you can shut down. There are no headquarters to raid. The network is spread out across thousands and thousands of computers run by volunteers all over the globe. It's a leaderless, unstoppable, decentralized organism.
And look, this isn't just some cool theory. We saw it happen in the real world. Remember WikiLeaks? After they published all those sensitive documents, the big financial companies, the spiders, like Visa, MasterCard, PayPal, they all ganged up to cut off their funding. They tried to chop off the head. But WikiLeaks, which is kind of a starfish itself, just shrugged and started accepting donations in Bitcoin. The decentralized network couldn't be censored. The Cypherpunk tool had just proven itself on the world stage. It worked.
And this brings us right back to where we started, back to that original cypherpunk prophecy. They saw a world of growing digital control, and so they built the tools to fight back, which leaves all of us with a really big question for our time. In a world where surveillance is just becoming the default setting, is technology our last, best line of defense?
Feel free to subscribe for more educational Bitcoin content, and if you want to support the channel, you can do so in the description.